Welcome back, guys, to the Bear Podcast Show with me, Sean Scullion, aka the Handsome Stranger, Owen Mallon, aka the Bear, Aidan behind the scenes. Is it on? Record, Aidan? He never hit the record button the first time, but we're back on. And today we have Paddy O'Connor. Paddy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, lads. Yeah.
So, Paddy, Paddy's here to talk about. Well, I had wrongly informed, but I had said the mica crisis, but it's much more than that. But we're going to delve right into it and put you back, Paddy. We're going to hear your story, put out to people the truth of what's going on, and get an understanding of the living nightmare that is this. It's all right for people reading this and thinking that's a remote, but this is a nightmare that people are living. But let's jump right back, Paddy. You're Carndona man.
Carndona man, yeah. Up on the show, yeah.
So let's take us back to when you were building, obviously, and how it came about for you, and what the process and steps involved in you.
Well, as I said, I set out, got married in 2004, and I always kind of had a plan that I would build a house. That was kind of always my dream when I was younger, that I would get a house built, start a family, and settle down in there. So got married in 2004, started to build the house around 2006, and moved on to it in 2008, and everything seemed grand. Like it was kind of the dream come through. We had our own pad, and
you were obviously excited, and it was the family. Pardon me, was the family expanding then? And
aye, by 2008 we moved on with 3 kids with Dylan, Alicia, and Gavin. I was working away. I work in Dublin during the week, and I come home at the weekends, and everything was good.
You were living your dream. You were a brand new home. Your kids, and you're working away. And then when did that all start to change?
Like maybe around 2011. I just remember after that hard winter we had with the snow and the frost, a lot of ones started to notice that they'd crack in their own houses, and where did this mica come out that this is what it was causing it. And like that.
So sorry to jump in. How just cracks, was it? Is that
just that's the way it starts off? You get hairline cracks. No,
but it could have been mistaken for like settling or
exactly. Yeah.
But just for people that don't know, what it actually is, mica.
So what mica is a mineral that's an all stone, right? Mm-hmm. So what they originally thought was that whenever it freeze and thaw, when you mix stone onto a block and you build your house with it, weathering then when it gets wet on a wet day, and then frost comes along, freezes, thaws out, it starts to break down the actual block itself. So the mica is getting activated. So mica is just a mineral that is on all stone, same as pyrite, things like that there. So what was happening was when these blocks are getting wet, they're freezing, they're thawing, they're drying out, they're expanding and contracting, and that's causing cracks. So they initially thought that if there was enough cement put into the mix when the blocks were being made, they'd be strong enough, and the cement would surround the stone and would keep the dampness out, keep this from happening. But as tests have shown over the years, that there hasn't been enough cement put onto the blocks. That's probably about 50% of the problem, that they weren't using enough cement, and then the actual stone, the aggregate they're using to make the blocks, was not fit for purpose. So.
But then in 2011, you noticed then,
2011, a lot of people in the area would have noticed, and I'm a plasterer with trade, so I should know to look at my things, and I'd seen a crack here and a crack here. I thought that's just a settling crack. That's as you said, that's what you thought it was. And then I remember an uncle of mine's a painter, and he's up painting the inside of the house one day, and we'd never got around to painting the outside because after we moved on, the recession hit and money was tight and blah blah blah. And this time we're coming on to 2013 or 14, and I was back working again and things were going good, but I asked the money. So I said to the uncle, and he's painting the inside of the house, I said, when you get a bit of time, a bit of dry weather, go and stick a lick of paint outside of that house too. But I think it's just freshen the house up, or look good painted, my own colours picked out, and so the wife. And he says to me, why would you paint that house? Is that house is mica? It's not a fuck. It's not, it doesn't. And he left and he went away, and I started walking around the house, and I thought, holy fuck, how did I not see that? These cracks. So as the weeks then went on and the months went on after, I talked to this one, talked to that one, they're saying, that's how it starts. You have a wee hairline crack comes up your corner coins, and after a shower of rain, like my house was plastered smooth plaster, so after a shower of rain it would dry out, you'd see all these wee web cracks everywhere. So I was looking the next time after the rain, I was like, fuck, I have that. And then there's this whole thing then that you think, oh, Jesus, I don't want to be the one to have it. I'm fucking saying nothing here. The wife knew, close family members knew, and you just buried her head in the sand. Says, like, we're kind of, I think we felt embarrassed to say we had it because it was a fucking disease. It was a problem that nobody wants, and here we're stuck. We have it now too, like, you know.
Tell me, just before we go on, and so I can get a clear view of this. Mica or Mica or Mica?
Mica is what they would call it.
So there was a quarry that this originally stemmed from that was obviously in your local area. What did you call the quarry?
You see, we got our blocks from Cassidy's in Buncrana.
Okay.
That's where we got our blocks. Now, there's another quarry in Inishowen as well. I can't name them because I didn't buy my blocks off them. I have no problem naming Cassidy's because
that's where you come from. You're only stating facts here.
And the wife has receipts at the house to prove that if there's any question on it. But there's another quarry in Inishowen as well. It's causing the same problem. I know people have bought blocks from them and they're in the same situation.
So this is what I don't get my head around here. So just so I can be very clear and get a good understanding of this, is it there was a problem with the stone, or was it that there was a problem with the stone plus the manufacturing process? There was a collective errors that all went together. Yeah. Because what I'm saying is, how did this not happen more across the country? Was there corners cut also with something underlying that all accumulated to create this problem? Or was this basically somebody cut a corner, there wasn't enough concrete in the block, and that was the sole reason? Or was it the mixture of where they were coming from? There was a problem in that quarry it's not an algae, or it's not like an organism.
No, do you know what it actually is? And you'd probably be familiar with it yourself. Have you ever looked in the ground somewhere, say like a stone street, and you think, geez, that's a bit of gold? Do you ever get that, like it looks like a gold chain? It'll catch your eye on a sunny day. That's mica. That's what mica is. It's that, and it's soft. If you crush it, like stories going back, people will tell you all different stories, but stories come back to when they built the Paul Dam outside Buncrana back in, I think it was the 90s or something. That company that was building, or the contractor was building at the time, went to Cassidy's to source concrete, and they done their own tests, and they deemed that the stone that they were using, their aggregate that they were using to make concrete, was too soft to make concrete. So they didn't. They got concrete elsewhere for the dam. And that should have been a red flag to everybody at the time.
So that's what I wanted to know.
So it's the stone.
So was there a standard somewhere along the line that people turned around and said, don't be using that? We've found this problem before. Because there had to be, like, this is, not every quarry that's opened will provide stone for concrete. Or am I right in saying that? There's different.
Oh, you get sand pits and things like that there. I would be more gravel and sand.
But somebody in the 90s, so the dam, there's a big dam there, isn't there? So they obviously the engineers had a bit of gumption about it and says, right, we'll test this first. Had a look at it and says, that ain't going to work for what we. So that was the first red flag, and I suppose that's only come to light now.
Later on, and that's just talk. People have said that, but like. There is standards for everything. Like, it doesn't matter what you do, it has to be regulated by the government or the Irish government or whatever. There is standards for everything. Like, if you buy a pair of shoes in the shop and they're not fit, you take them back. No, there is a standard there. And it's the same with concrete. But nobody's enforcing it. So, come back to your original one, that question there was, it is the stone. The stone that they're using has got mica in it. But there's a fella, he's called Professor Paul Dunlop. He studies in the University of Ulster, right? He's a geologist. He's done his own test in this, and he reckons that mica, whereas mica might be a bit of the problem, it's not our only problem, because there's another mineral in the stone as well called pyrite, as well as pyrite. So you've three combined. So pyrite is, they reckon, more rapid. When it starts to deteriorate, it deteriorates more rapid than what mica would or anything else would. And it's just a chemical reaction. That's what causes that to break down. And as well as that, you're on this melting the blocks. Like, people have come back saying they've got their testing done, and they're saying that there's only, their block strength wise is only 8%, 10%. You know what I mean? They're just.
So this was a catalogue of errors.
Aye.
So the stone wasn't fit for purpose no matter what happened. The production of the block wasn't done right either. Is Cassidy still operating?
They were up until about a year and a half ago, and it was the public that closed them down. There was a whole outcry there about 2 years ago. A lad called Paddy O'Connor started it all up, and he just rebelled against the whole thing. And simply, he rebelled against Cassidy's at the start because his next door neighbour was getting their street concreted, and Cassidy's lorries were backing in, pumping in concrete. And there he is looking at his house, and there's fucking cracking falling down around him. And he says,
So he wanted to stop this.
Oh, he
from
just
happening now.
He out and blocked, told him to clear off, blocked the road, wouldn't let them in, and they ended up onto the border, over the border, and they got chambers out of the area to finish the street. And when he done that, he put it in Snapchat and they put it in TikTok.
Because he's everywhere at the moment.
Aye, and it went mad. But like that's only 2 years ago. And see, when I seen that Snapchat that night, I followed him on Snapchat. That popped up on my phone. I looked at it and I thought, "Fuck, this is it. This is what we need." Because the whole thing had been going on for years and years and years. Can kick down the road. We'll sort it. We'll sort it. We'll sort it. And then you have this man saying, "Hey, hold on a minute. I have enough of this shit here." And I stood up,
something has to change.
pulled my head out of the sand. I said to the wife, I said to Trina, I says, "This is it. There's going to be changes made now." Because that man is forceful. He's well liked around the town, but he'll drive a thing on. And he doesn't care whose toes he steps on along the way. If he's a mission, he just go for it. And that's the way he's been all along. So that kind of got the whole thing fired up again. Like, since 2011, I think it was 2010, we have a group called the Mica Action Group, MAG they're called. And they've been doing this. They've been in talks with the government week in, week out, week in. And they've worked on the first redress scheme that the government announced, was what you referred to earlier on, was the 90-10 scheme. MAG got that over the line. It was them fought for that. And we thought, this is going to help us. This is going to get us out of this mess.
So just so we can, for anybody listening who's not aware of this, initially, so a group was set up to
Just
a political
homeowners.
group to
Just
people
local
that got
homeowners,
together,
yeah.
they've had enough, and they've went to the government, their local officials, representatives, and they sat down and they discussed a reform on they firstly they didn't acknowledge the problem at the start. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
They denied it, and they denied it, and that's somebody else's field, and the cans was kicked back and forth that some agency or trading standards, I don't know in the south who it is, but I take it there's a trading standards.
National Standards Authority of Ireland, yeah.
So that would have been the first port of call, and then obviously somebody reached out to get evidence that this was a problem. So the university, an independent review. So then you got the guy, eventually got the government to listen, and they hashed out this 90-10. Now I'm taking out the 90-10. Is that quite the liberal of it? 90%?
No, that's our own take on it. So it was classed, sold us at that time that it was to be a redress scheme and it was to fix the problem. I know back in that time when that came out.
But did that seem like a light? Did that seem like we're moving somewhere in the right direction?
This is it.
Because
we're getting our house fixed, yeah.
Were you still in your house? Were you still fit to live in it?
I'm still in it yet to this day, yeah.
Okay, and like this is the thing. There's lots of people that's not now, isn't there?
Oh, aye. Yeah.
And you're still culpable for the mortgage, or you know.
Yeah, if you have a mortgage in that house, like I know of one family, mortgage in the house, young kids, couldn't live in the house no longer. It was deemed, the engineers told them they had to get out, and they're paying rent, paying a mortgage, trying to save to get because
then they need to go and try and
10%. I thought it was supposed to be their 10% of fixing it, the 90-10 scheme. So they've rent, they've a mortgage, they're trying to save, they've young kids.
Obviously, there's somewhere along the line, you know, the first protocol is Cassidy's. Now, I need to be very careful here in what we're saying because we don't know who supplied and we haven't fact-checked this, but obviously you have no motive to be telling us something that we're aware of that's not right. So I just want to make it clear that we haven't fact-checked this, and this is only you're saying it as our opinion on the matter.
Yeah.
But obviously, to me, that would have been my first protocol. I'd have seen my lawyer and says, "I'm taking them. These fuckers sold me this." Right. You wouldn't have been the only one. There'd have been an angry queue then. Was there any? Did they take any on, or what was their initial reaction? Did they continue doing the thing? Did they continue making the block all through this?
Yeah.
But even on that, how are they fit to? So there's obviously an issue with the block. That you're saying about somebody getting their driveway concreted. how can they still be using concrete from this quarry if there is mica in it? Like,
One,
are they
two.
is the process different that it's not affecting it as much now, or is it still always going to go that way if there's mica in it?
And on the stone. So that now I'm no geologist, I'm no engineer, I'm not. But my own opinion is, if it's on the stone
it's in
that they're aggregating, that they're using to make blocks, concrete, bricks, lintels, whatever they're making. Doesn't matter if it's in the foundations, if it's in the blocks, it's in everything. Right? So it's the same stone. They're not taking on any different stone. The only thing about the concrete, like your concrete street doesn't show signs of cracking as much because the mix is stronger. You'll have a 30 Newton or a 40 Newton mix, whereas your blocks are only, I think it's 10 standard.
That just means that it's going to take longer to break down,
exactly.
but it's still going to break
Exactly.
down.
It's coming. It's coming. So, going back to what you asked there about Cassidy's, when this was happening, we were still didn't realise we had it, but we'd heard the talks around the town that there was three families that were taking Cassidy's quarry to court, right? And it was on the case that they knew that mica, their houses were falling down, cracking, blah, blah, blah. And Cassidy's claimed that the night before it went to court, it was said that if it goes ahead in the morning in this court case, the three families might want it, they might not, but Cassidy's will never have money to pay out because at that time they were claiming they didn't have insurance in the quarry. So there's no insurance there to cover it. So them three families, it was taking them something like €10,000 each to take this case to court in the morning. They decided, no, we'll take that 10,000 and try and fix our house with it.
Which is fair enough to them. You know, they're in that position. They're already thousands of pounds down.
Yeah.
And they're now being told that the only worry about that is it would have been great if that had continued on because that would have closed them down till
straight away. Then
less people but like, that's not on them to stop at that because they're already in the hook for thousands of pounds. So, but what had they made any public address, apology, acknowledgement?
No.
Did they? So I got the opinion. So I'm not fully reversing that. I got the opinion that so many people denied the existence of it for a long time.
Myself included.
I didn't want. It's easier sometimes till not face the reality of it, and live in hope. But so this was all happening and unfolding. The company that was doing it continued to do. There has to be some level of culpability here that you are now becoming aware that what you're doing is not working, and you're continuing to do it, advertise it, and sell it.
Exactly.
There has to be some level that people say you need to close, you need to be held accountable. You can't go home to your warm house while these people are going home to holes in the wall.
Right. So I can tell you now what happened to me then. So when I came into 2000 and maybe 13, 14, when I started to realise I had this, and then the head was buried in his hand, and I was thinking, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? 2016, I was working on a site in Delgan in Wicklow. I always remember where I was. Certain things happened in my life. I can picture where I was at the time. So I was working one day, and I think it was a Thursday, and I was pissed off, and I said, do you know what? I'm going to ring them cunts. So I got out the phone, and I rang up, and I got chatting to a fella called Kieran. Now, I don't know who Kieran was. Maybe he just worked in Cassidy's office. I don't know. And I said to him, I said, look, this is who I am, Paddy O'Connor. I'm from Kieran. I built my house in 2006 using your blocks, and I was cracking. What's the story here? And he says to me, he goes, what was your house plastered and blah, 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 and all this here. And I says, rubbed up, that's your problem. He says, your house should have been dashed. And I said, look, don't give me any old shit. I said, I just want to know.
I'll put my back up.
Aye.
Because you're a plaster.
Aye.
So you know he's fucking full
of shit. So I says to him, look, what's the story here? I'd heard stories that they were doing this and that for people. So that's the reason I phoned. I says, what are you going to do for me? Like, I says, I have receipts at the house. So he says, I got the blocks. I says, you know who I am, like, you know. And he says, right. He says, we'll give you blocks if you want to down. So obviously, you know, with a house, you have like an outer leaf and an inner leaf, and you have a cavity in the middle. So he says, if you want to down the outside leaf of your house, we'll give you new blocks to put it back up again. And I'd heard this, so that's part of the reason why I phoned, because I was thinking this could be just it's kind of like a long-term patch-up job. It could have got me an extra 10 years, 15 years.
Can I ask a question?
Aye.
Did them blocks come from the same fucking quarry?
So, wait a year. That's where I'm going. Yeah, yourself. So he says, and like this is going on to 2016. Now, there's not many quarries where we're at. Or like if you go, there's two quarries on the show that provide blocks and you can go to Chambers on there and you'll get blocks. You can go to Robinson's, Claudia, and as far as I'm aware, there's never been an issue with Chambers or Robinson's, and that's, they reckon, put down to the fact that the regulations in Northern Ireland is a lot tighter than what they are in the South. It's been watched, you know what I mean? It's been scrutinised what they're doing. So anyway, our next quarry then, you're chatting probably Donegal town, which is an hour and a half's drive from where we're at. Like, Donegal's a massive county. So I'd said to him at the time, I said, what are you going to do for me? I said, I've heard that you're giving block, you're giving sand, you're giving cement. And I thought, if I got that, I'd get scaffolding up around the house, take the outside leaf down, pay someone to do it. Hey, it would cost me whatever amount of thousands, and it would be done for now.
Yeah.
Because, as you said, going back to it's on the aggregate, it's on the stone, so the inside leaf would have still had it, but it's not exposed to the weather, so it wouldn't deteriorate as rapid, you know. So I went ahead and I said, what are you giving? And he said, no. He says, them stories are going about. He says, all we'll give you is blocks. I'm like, blocks is the cheapest part of building a house. Anybody that's built a house will know that blocks is the cheapest thing you'll buy. So I said, right. And I went away. And the stories out around and I showed that time was people were still using Cassidy's blocks because now Cassidy's never said this themselves. This is just talk, right? There was a problem. We've it sorted. Cassidy's now are certified to sell you a block, right? They have an EU cert that this is the best block you'll get anywhere. It's as good as Chambers, as good as the rest of them. This is 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, so they closed. I was chatting to a lady there last weekend, and I don't even say who she is, but she raised 4 kids on her own, right? She lived in a house in the town, and when things were good in the Celtic Tiger, she sold that house, she built her own house, a wee bit outside the town. Figured out then, she had mica or pyrite, whatever you want to call it now, defective concrete blocks. So she went ahead, gathered up whatever money she had, took down the outside leaf, cost whatever amount to 1,000. Now, she didn't say what it was, but I know myself, you're chatting 15 to 20,000 to do a house that size, right? And a single woman on her own. And I said, I was at her house last weekend. I said, it looks good. She goes, aye. But she says, where did he get the blocks? And I says, Cassidy. She says, aye. The builder that built the outside leaf from the new again about 3-4 years ago used Cassidy's blocks. And that house starting to crack already. Because it's the same block. It's the same stone. No, but they put out this whole spin that, we're certified now and we have the best blocks going. That's shite. Mm-hmm. And she's not the only one I know of that. I know of handfuls of other people that are in the same situation, spent the money, tried to fix it themselves. Because the outside leaves as an option to get away with it, to get the cracks gone, you know what I mean, to keep the water out. Like, keeping the mice out in the winter time is a fucking issue, never mind the water, because they're just running. Mice want to come on for the heat in the winter, and that's what they're doing.
This is what I'm struggling, because a block's a block. That's, you know, it obviously we're going to see now because of the thing, but there's no way they become well aware we're now 10, 12, 13 years down this nightmare from when this comes, as you says, 09 Whisper. So say we're 11 years, we're up to 20 when we're still selling. You're 11 years down. You're well aware now that the stone you're pulling out of the ground is fucked. Mm-hmm. The concrete's not enough. So you could change the process and up the amount of concrete. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's one way to go about it. But going away to somewhere and getting a certification to put it back round to continue on doing this. Mm-hmm. It's not a lot of science for you to go away and know if Carndona is a small, like Inishowen's a small peninsula. It's not, you're never going to avoid these people. You're never going to not see these people. To send that block away and to be tested isn't hundreds of thousands of pounds for a company that's selling them. It's a simple process to know that this is okay. And it's a simple process to find out, no, it's not okay. Mm-hmm. So the certification sounds like a glorification of a cover-up to continue conning. It's now become a con. Yeah, now, I don't believe that they honestly set out to quarry a quarry that wasn't worth a shite. I don't think anybody would have done that.
No, I think that this quarry's been on the family for generations. And years ago it was grand. Yeah. And Talk again has said that it's when they started in this newer end of the quarry, that's when the problem started.
So there's nobody intentionally set out to do this.
No.
But there has to be a period of time, and this is what I'm saying, like this is nearly verging on criminal, and well, it's not verging on criminal, it is criminal, it's fraud, it's a fucking deception. There has to be a period of time where when you're hearing the whispers, you're hearing the complaints, you're like, shit, is this us? Is this something we're doing? You know, are the plasters doing this wrong? And that's the first thing would have come into the head. And was the bricklayer, what was the mortar they were mixing? What were they doing? How did they put it up? But then it would have become clear that 1, maybe 2's a coincidence, 3's getting out of hand, 4, 5, they would have started hearing this, so we would have started becoming aware of it. But my thing is, in what point in the timeline, and who's questioning this, in what point in the timeline did they turn around and say, right, okay, what we're doing here is wrong, we can't continue this, we've went away and got a certification, now we're telling everyone we're good to go, we're in the same area of the quarry, we're doing the same plant. We haven't changed out the machines. Maybe they have changed out the machines. Maybe they put that. I don't know. They've maybe changed their mix, and they're well aware they've changed their mix. But somewhere along the line, if you were getting that, when you realised that was wrong and you're going to go and get something fixed, so the certification, this is where I think the lines blur between deception and moving straight into fraud. When you know that it's wrong, so you've went to obtain a certification to say it's right, you would have got this tested. And who certified it? And who said that was okay? Because there's far too much let that happen. There's far too many people weren't doing their jobs.
But then, did this certification ever exist? That's our thing. That was all talked. You know what I mean?
So it was talked.
It was just words, right? We're certified.
Now, we need to be very clear here. I am casting a judgment on, and we've used names, so I need to be very clear. I'm casting it on the opinion of what I've been told now. I haven't fact-checked this out, and if it's wrong, I'll be the first to hold my hands up and apologise. But I have checked other stuff online, and it does point towards this. So what I'm saying is, who stands over this in the South? Where does the buck stop? So is it the National Standards Agency?
Supposed to be, yeah.
Right.
They're responsible for anything that's manufactured in the South.
So, but it's crazy to me, if you're selling a product that isn't fit for purpose, who stands over that? Like you're saying, there's certain standards there. There has to be certain standards. But if you're selling a product, the product's the block, and it's not fit for purpose. Well, then who's coming in to say it's not fit for purpose? It should not be used.
Exactly.
It should never been used.
Yeah.
Stop what you're doing.
You see, 2011, go back to Mica Action Group. I talked about them earlier. They're the group that was set up and a shown to try and get a scheme to fix this from the government, try and get money or try and get help. 2011 it was. They put it to Leo Varadkar that this is happening. It's coming from this quarry. It has to stop. And not to this day. Only for locals themselves 2 years ago closed that quarry. And the only way that was closed was we intimidated them.
Yeah.
So anytime a lorry left that quarry and headed to say, your house, with a load of concrete, somebody followed it and put it up on Facebook. Sean's buying concrete off Cassidy's. Then next thing you know, Sean's, well, fuck, I don't want to be all over Facebook. I'm not going to buy no more concrete off them. And that's the way it went until it was closed down. Donegal County Council never closed it.
So in
the same sense, right? So in the same sense now, if they wanted to open up next week again and start business as usual, there's nobody going to stop them.
Well, if they have a license now, they can open up again now. Whether they have a license or not, I don't know at the minute.
So there's a licensing agency. See, this is the thing that I want to know is there's too many people that you always find when they do reviews on things like this and situations went wrong. It's not one person done something wrong. It's 2 and 3 and 4. But what I will tell you is, and I know this is the thing, it's funny how things that have large tax implications to pay a lot of money back to the government get to continue to do things. If they, it's obviously a wealthy industry.
Now, see, you're saying that there, right? Dara Breen, right? He's our Minister for Housing in the Republic of Ireland at the minute, right? We've been at him, the Mica Action Group, even people, family homes, been emailing, trying to make contact with them all the time to try and get this sorted, right? He's the Minister for Housing, over housing in the Republic of Ireland. So he lay down and he came out and he says, we want a full review of all quarries in the Republic of Ireland, what they're doing, right? You set up a board or whatever to go around and inspect these quarries. The only quarry that they couldn't get access to was Cassidy's. Because Cassidy said the gate's locked. Now, they're out of business. The gates are locked. But surely somebody could let them in to inspect that quarry to see what the problem was. That's one of the quarries the problem's coming from. And it's one of the quarries that wasn't inspected.
This leads me to the anger that I would have. I genuinely believe that, I don't believe that anyone set out to do this, but I believe that somewhere along the line people made conscious choices.
They could have stopped it
to continue
long
doing
ago.
this.
Yeah.
And the nightmare that they've contributed. And now the other side of things is, it's funny how the media has portrayed this, and not a massive amount of noise. Now I know Innishowen's a very insulated part of the world in such, it's very north.
Mm-hmm.
It's not it's a rural area. We've seen before where if you're out of the road and you're not making noise, you're not in Dublin. If you were in Dublin, this would have been sorted 20 years ago. This wouldn't have happened. My biggest question, my number one thing would be, is that factual? That the dam, and there will be reports, and there will be somewhere along the line records of this. This will be factual evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Is it somewhere along the line the engineers and who engineered the dam, who done the test thing? That will be recorded. That's not my first port of call would be, is that factual?
Mm-hmm.
Did they test this quarry and realize that it's shit for purpose in that?
Mm-hmm.
And that was known 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then we are now 12 years down a process where nobody stopped it bar the community.
Mm-hmm.
So all the people, the government, the standards, the licensing, nobody at any point intervened and said, first and foremost, down your tools. Now, I know it's a different country. I'm not completely thinking, and it wouldn't be 100% here, but I do know you have like is it the NIHBC or something, the Northern Ireland Building thing,
and
control here, and things like that there, that trading standards, there would be a certain level of people, you would go till contact first, somebody sent out, something would be closed if it was defective. That's like me saying to you, I'm going to fire together a set of brake pads and sell them cheaper than Mercedes out my back and just get away with it. You can't do things like that. Not when there's structural safety, the regulation has to be some port. But there's far too many people, and I can tell you what we'll do before we put this out. We will have to actually email some of these people for a comment on this.
Good luck.
No, but what I mean is, because nobody's being accountable. Nobody's accountable for what's going on. So what does this mean in terms of that? You're saying to me there's a families out of their home paying a mortgage because the bank ain't losing.
No.
This is what happens, like. There's only one person loses here.
Mm-hmm.
They were paid for the blocks. They've got their money. The mortgage companies continue to receive their money, or they're coming after you for anything you have.
Yeah.
They don't want the property back. By all means, they don't want that back because they can't even auction that. It's not. What's it worth the land to clear it out again and go? So the person that always is on the end of the hook is the working man that's standing there. So at no point nobody stepped in. You know why nobody steps in? The banks got paid, the government got taxes, and it's fuck yous all. So it's in an isolated area. Didn't get a massive amount of media coverage. Now your man's been brilliant for your cause because he's brash. He's very out there, and I do think I sent him an email about coming on one time. But that's only solved one part of the problem. And you have talked about one quarry. There's a quarry that you're maybe, and we're not sure of. Is it?
I'm 100% sure, but I can't say.
Aye, but we're not going to say.
And it's still active.
Is it continuing to operate?
Still, yes, as far as I know, yeah.
Is in the groups up there? Are they sharing people taking concrete from it?
They were back at the same time as Cassidy's. They were
right.
Yeah.
So, has anybody knocked on its door?
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, has anyone come out when they asked for this review and the government asked for the review? Did this one get reviewed?
As far as I know, they did actually. Yeah. Because they're open and operational now, as far as I know.
Right.
Now, what findings they got, we don't know.
And hey, who's to say the brick you're inspecting is the brick from it? But what I'm saying is, obviously it's a multi-million-pound industry. There's a lot of things. So where are we at? They've set up the mica group. They went for the 90-10 redress. Did it ever take off? Did it ever work? Or was there any?
So I'm not sure about my years now because, as I say, I wasn't involved in it when the 90-10.
Yeah. What was the basic nuts and cruts of the 90-10?
So the 90-10 was...
You had to generate 10, they'd put in 90?
So that's what it was. Basically, that's what it sounded like. That when it was signed off and delivered, it sounded like the homeowners pay 10%. Now, a lot of people thought, geez, 10%, fuck, why should I have to pay it? But I remember sitting down with the wife, because when we realised we had it, we says, look, if we have to pay 10% of this, right, and this is only my assertion of what was going to happen, right, so I thought, if we pay 10% of this, say 300,000, right, 30 grand, and I was thinking, well, my house now is coming on maybe 12 years old, and like, by the time we built the house, like, the windows we put on weren't the dearest windows. We said, hey, if we get 10, 15 years out of them, we'll upgrade them then when we have more money, hopefully. So I was kind of thinking, that's 90-10. If I have to spend 30 grand, well, geez, maybe I'll have new windows out of it. So we would have to do that anyway. And we would, the house would be freshened up, new kitchen, blah, blah, blah. So it turned out that the 90-10 sounded good. And then when they sat down and looked at it, it was capped. The government slapped on a cap at the last minute, saying that I think the figure was like 247,000. And then take your 10% off that too. Mm-hmm. That's all they're going to give you. Right? And to avail of this scheme, the first thing any homeowner has to do is contact an engineer themselves independently and say, I think I have it. Would you do a core sample? So basically they come out, they drill, I think it's like 4 or 6 4-inch cores through the blocks in certain areas of your house and send them away. I think it's England to go to get testing to see what is the problem.
What's that cost?
5,000 was it?
I think between 5,000 and 8,000.
Yeah.
And then so you pay, say we go for 5,000, so you throw out 5,000, the engineer comes out, does the testing, sends it away, comes back, he does up a analysis of what it is on a report, right? So then you have your report to say from your engineer, my house has whatever percentage of, there was mica was being tested for that time, that was the main mineral that we knew about. Yeah. And then cement content of what's on that block or that core. So you then go to Donegal County Council and apply and say, look, we've mica, there's our report, our test report from the engineer, and you apply to get on this 90-10 scheme. So as it stands now, I'd say I don't exactly know the amount of houses that have been fixed through that 90-10 scheme.
How many houses have registered mica in it? You know?
Well, the last I heard it was coming close on 6,000, 7,000. And that's only showing. Right, so when we talk about this here,
shit, I thought we were talking about a couple of hundred houses.
Now, this is, as it stands at the minute, this 90-10 scheme, right, that was announced in 14 or 16, whatever it was, there's been an enhanced scheme announced in November 2021, right? So Dara Brain come out and says, look, this 90-10 scheme isn't working for the majority of people. It's working for nobody. And by that stage, there was only a handful of houses fixed on the 90-10 scheme. So you have like a 4, 5, 6 year, whatever it is, period of the scheme, and you've only a handful of houses fixed. So he turned around with an enhanced one and said, look, there'll be more money available. We'll do away with the 10%. You'll get 100% of the money, and then slapped on the cap again. So
what was the cap this time?
It's up now to 3. I think the most they're going to give is 300.
Are they going on like an average house price, or what is it?
Going on a square foot. So right. it's up to like 400 and something thousand, I think it is. But like the majority of people on the show in Donegal will never see that amount of money because the square footage of their house isn't big enough to get that. So it works then. What size your house is determines how much money you're going to get. So that was announced in 2021, and that was a better scheme. That was going to work for us. It was 100%. There was no 90-10. We wouldn't be out no money. And
so when was this? 2021?
November 2021. This was announced. There was a whole lot of protesting.
When did the quarry close?
It was around the same time.
So
around the same time.
We haven't got to the cause of it, but we're going to give money out to fix it. So the 90-10 was going on when the cause was still
happening. And at that time,
that actually baffles my mind.
But what annoys everybody, right? See, that time, if you had went for that 90-10 scheme, right, back in 2019, say, right, before the thing stopped, you're going to rebuild your house.
Oh, Jesus.
Who's the only one on the show has got a certified to give you a block? Cassidy. Mm-hmm. I couldn't have went to Owen, quarry up the road and say, oh, go and give me a block. He's not certified. He can't, through the scheme, it has to be insurance, it has to be registered builders, it has to be certified. So there you go.
Imagine getting paid for being the cause.
Now, there's a thing there that has been in my head a couple of times when we're talking, and I've never said it, and you're on about it. Back when I built my house, right? Now, that should have been red light flags to everybody, right? And a lot of people are the same. House was up, windows run, electrician was booked, and I said to him, price was sorted, whatever, and he says, are you chasing the house? No, so obviously you put your
Tracking.
up the walls to take your cables down onto your box, they come from your attic or whatever. He says, are you going to do that or am I doing that? And I said, no, you do that, I haven't time. And he said, oh, where do you get your blocks? And I said, oh, Cassie, it's grand, I'll do it.
Because it runs through it like butter.
I said to him at the time, why? And he goes, oh, them chambers blocks wild hard. And he said, Cassie, and I said, why is that? And it was the assumption at the time, and block layers at the time would have told you too, that Cassidy's were that busy, the blocks were green. They're just producing them that fast, green, and they'll harden. Concrete always hardens. Everybody knows that as a fact. Concrete will harden and harden through time until whatever, 90, 100 years, and then it starts to come back the way. That's known. But so we were all under the assumption that these blocks are going to get hard. But brickies love them because they're easy broke. Electricians love them, plumbers love them because they're easy to cut a track in them. And it should have been a red flag, but it wasn't. It's like me walking around the house and seeing a crack and thinking, oh, it's a settling crack. I'm a plaster. I should know that settling crack doesn't go that way. You know, I don't know. We just didn't
There was
see
lots
it.
of things that let's face it, when it's not something you're going to think about, it's not something you're aware of, you justify some of the weird things, but it's an accumulative afterwards. Hindsight's a wonderful thing. You look back and you see these. It's any mistake you make in your life, you look back and you're like, I should have known that. But you were going along, you're building a house, the dream was there, you're in that there, you're doing the same as everyone else around you. It's not something you're thinking about, it's not in the forefront of your mind. But I still can't get over how a government department can acknowledge a problem
And ignore it at the same time.
issue money for it, send people to where do you get my train of
Where the
thought?
problem arose
If
from.
a government's acknowledged that this is an issue and we must pay out, surely stop the bleeding.
Exactly.
Stop the bleeding first,
Yeah.
then address the matter, and then let's go forward. But obviously, you get that there's somebody's going to try and move, or you're going to inflate the price of your house so that you get a new house, you get it done, and you get a better bathroom, and they were worried that this would happen, and blah blah blah. I think at this point I realised that people just wanted their house sorted.
Oh, I'll tell you now, right? When this new scheme it was announced in 2021, this enhanced scheme they call it, right?
The country thought you all got 400 grand back.
I get that all the time.
And I was the same. I was like, Jesus, well,
We ball out in Spain and everything.
my granny had an old barn house out the back, and Jesus, it's riddled with me. I'll get it changed. And that was, but
That's the assumption.
how
even to
much
this day.
money of that has been issued? I'd love to know.
See this 2021 scheme, this enhanced scheme, not a penny. Nobody can avail of that scheme because it's not open yet.
So they put
So they
this
announced
scheme in
it.
place,
Aye.
but
So
they
your
have
house,
never opened
not
it.
only they've already said that we know these houses are deteriorating to beyond
Rapidly.
the safe.
Yeah.
So they now know that this is getting worse, and they're withholding the funds. But I'll tell you this here now, that's an image and a propaganda move. That came out and it looked like yous were sorted, and to the rest of Ireland, it was like, well, that issue's over.
Yeah.
And as far as everyone's concerned, you all have big fancy houses and then showing.
You see, that's why I wanted to come on and chat about this today, right? Because, as I said, I work in Dublin during the week. The amount of people come up to me and go, "Here's nothing." Go, "Oh, that's a wild thing." If they even know what it, have heard about it, they'll say, "Oh, sure, you get a fucking 400 grand. Jeez, you're sorted, new house and everything." I'm not. The scheme hasn't even opened to get on. So anybody that is getting their house remediated at the minute is still working off the old 90-10 scheme. Right, so come back to when you do your testing, right? You pay your 5,000, we said, and you get on to Donegal County Council that here's my test report from engineer. I have mica, we thought it all was at that time, and you then apply then to get 90% of your 5,000 back, right? I know people have 22, 24 months still waiting this to come back, right? Because there's no urgency
Well,
at
I'm
all.
going to ask you a question. Where is your house insurance in this?
Aye,
Because that's your first
do not
protocol.
want to know.
So
Now,
how did
first-
they get out of it? Because
Aye.
they're robbing, like they are robbing bastards.
So
They
first
take
thing,
all your dough, and first thing happens, they're not paying out.
and house insurance, don't want to know. It's not their problem.
How
They're
did they
saying-
get out of it? What did they say?
They said they don't cover for mica-related issues. That's just their way out of it. Home bond. When I bought
So
my house,
was that in? Obviously, they have like 50 pages that nobody ever reads.
Aye.
Was mica named it?
I don't know if it was. I'd be very surprised if it was, because how were they to see this coming?
But
you know?
it wouldn't be the first there was back even some of them Victorian buildings, they put like them lime facades or something, and they all went and then they can't wash them or stuff. So it wouldn't be the first time they've come across a
Something
defect
broke
and
down.
so they probably got themselves out of that.
Aye. So they were gone, and then come back to Homebond. When we built our house at the time, when we were through planning stages, we done Donegal County Council, and to get our planning, we had to pay into Homebond. And what Homebond was in the Republic of Ireland at the time was a kitty of money that if anything should arise like this, they didn't foresee this, but well, there's a collection of money there that the taxpayer doesn't have to burden it.
Yeah.
We've paid into it. It's like a combined kit. It could be anything. It could be wrong. It could be a fire defect. It could be blocks. It could be concrete. Anything. Gone. No word of it. Where's Homebond? All the time the recession money was needed to keep the country afloat, or whatever excuse was given, and that's gone.
So
that was an insurance as well. A fund, a backup that's gone, empty. Nobody knows where it is.
Was that a government?
That was a government thing. Yeah. We had to pay. We had to pay into that. We're building our house.
So a government under it, insurance has pulled the pin.
Mm-hmm.
The insurance companies have pulled the pin. I'd love to know if back then 5,000 people turn around and says we're stopping paying the mortgage right now, every one of us, 5,000, how quick that'd have been wrapped up. Because when the bank's in the hole for 80%, you'd be surprised how
that was
quick.
talked about. But you see, with all the vulture funds that are run about, like people have stopped paying their mortgage, just simply give up on it, and we're in a position where maybe it was their second home, and they could just say, right, hang on, I'm not paying that.
I'm going to ask you that. If you're a holiday homeowner, you ain't getting a bean.
And that's part of the reason I'm on here too, because you all know Northern Ireland, he's all flocked down to Donegal in the summertime. He's all have a holiday home, you have a mobile home, you have something. The amount of people in Northern Ireland that are affected with it, maybe know, maybe don't even know they have it. It's unreal. And like, as well as that too, go to the other side of that. You're building your house, say you're in Derry or you're in Strabane.
And you bought the block across the...
Sterling's good. We'll nip out over the border and we'll get our blocks. That'll be a bit cheaper. He's have it too. And now this is my opinion, and I'd say, strike me down if I'm wrong. Anything that was built with blocks out of that quarry since the mid 1990s, maybe even early 1990s, has it. Now back then, in the 90s.
See, you're exposed because you're on the sea. If you come more inland, it might take longer.
Aye. But back in the 90s, any blocks, a lot of the testing that's been done to get on this 90-10 scheme is showing that there's a higher cement content, which we talked about earlier on. Higher the cement content, the longer it takes to break down. So back then, they were putting the right amount of cement onto the Celtic Tiger when things were booming, got greedy and cut back to make more and more and more. That's my take on it, and I think I'll not be wrong with that.
Well, there's a common if that was ever questioned, we just ask people to produce the report they got with how much percentage of concrete was in it, and then it'll be very hard to deny. Yeah. So that won't be a hard thing for us to, like, if somebody comes at us about
what
that.
We're seeing now, right? So say you have a house, like, and a show now was built maybe say 1990s early, right? Use the blocks out of Cassidy's quarry, everything's grand, no signs of nothing showing. And then back in the last maybe 8 to 10 years, the government done a scheme thing out there to do with insulating your homes. You know, these older homes that were built maybe in the 80s, 70s, 60s, whatever, get your cavity wall pumped. That was a big thing, because years ago, the cavity, the void in the middle between the outer leaf and the inner leaf was empty. Yeah. So now they're saying, well, drill holes, pump on these wee polystyrene beads, and that'll give you a better energy rating, that'll keep the heat in, the heat can't get out. But a lot of houses that have done that have been built in the 90s, are cracking now mad. Because what is happening is the block's been disturbed. Maybe the wee bit of cement that they put back in to cover the borehole where they're pumping in isn't as strong as it should be. The moisture's getting in, and the block's starting to break down. But what happens then, they're starting to see, is because that cavity's filled with polystyrene, polystyrene's absorbing all the water too, and then it's sticking it to the underleaf. So underleaf's sitting saturated in water, and that's starting to break down quicker too. So if them houses were never upgraded, I'd say they'd be grand for years to come yet.
But we're not at the end of any of this, because we're not 100% sure that they're not still producing the blocks with it. And nobody seems to want to take onus or responsibility that this process has happened. Nobody has been held accountable for what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
How can the government acknowledge the problem, and obviously start putting together a fund of millions of pounds, which they haven't released or we haven't seen.
Billions. Billions.
So this is obviously something's went through the dial, and they've discussed this, and they've said, at no point, I can't get my head around this in a modern country. At no point did somebody say, let's make sure we've stopped the bleeding.
Mm-hmm. See,
let's make sure that there's not an hour. I know you say, as your man says, let's get a report, but let's make sure that this isn't continuing to happen.
Right. So, as I said, Leo Varadkar was Taoiseach at the time, and he was told about it, 2011. There's a massive problem here, and it's getting worse and worse, and we need to try and do something about it. Not to this day has he done much about it, right? So, come back to Dara Breen, our Minister for Housing. He announced in 2021, or 100% redress scheme, he called it, an enhanced scheme of 2.3 or 2.5 billion euro of taxpayers' money to sort this out, right? Not once has he set foot in Donegal to see a house, to do anything. Right, so
there's not a lot of votes. The problem is you're very sparsely populated. They'll be worried. That's what I'm saying to you. If this was Dublin, different story.
Go you back to Dublin, they had the pyrite issue. It was very similar idea where it was the aggregate, the stone that they were putting on through the subfloor. I don't know how aware everybody is. I know you have to try and explain things as you go along, but when you're building your house, you dig out your foundations, you pour in your concrete, and then your blocks are built up to ground level. They call it like your footing blocks. And then inside that internal where all your rooms will be then eventually, there's stone put on, and it's all whacked down tight and rolled and it's compressed, and then you put on concrete, and that's called your subfloor. So that stone that they're putting on and rolling and whacking, it happened to all around Leinster that the quarry they're taking it out had high levels of pyrite. So pyrite, mica, pyrrhotite are all very similar minerals. They can react to weathering, right? They're grand when they're under the rock and the face cliff and they're not disturbed, but when you disturb them, manufacture them, process them, take them out, they're all open and exposed to the airs and moisture and things. So what was happening in Leinster at that time, and like this is 2000 and late noughties maybe, I can't remember. So that stone then, when it was disturbed and put on and whacked and concrete put on top of it, it all started to expand and contract and onto the floors. So people had bought houses in Dublin and Meath and Louth, and they started to notice, geez, my door won't open to get into the kitchen. The floor swole up, or there's a crack in the floor, the tiles are disappearing into a hole. And that's what it was. So the government jumped on straight away, no thoughts about it, announced a redress scheme, fix these here. It was known as the pyrite scheme, right? Leinster pyrite scheme. So what they did was, right, you rang up, now I don't know who, maybe Dublin City Council or whoever you contacted, if you owned a house and you had problems with your floors, you said, I have it. You were taken out of your house, moved on to another house, and they had a turnaround of something like, don't quote me on this, but I think it might have been, say, 6 months, right? So you know you're going to pack your stuff, move out, into a house they provide you with, you stay there for 6 months, and then a few weeks before you're ready to move back in, you're taken to a tile showroom, you pick out your tiles, your wooden flooring, everything's put back the way it was, house decorated, you go out, you get a letter of apology when it's finished, and you move back in, and everybody's happy. So why are we different in Donegal? That's all we want. Like, I've often said this last while, right? The whole scheme, the 90-10 and the new enhanced scheme is shite, right? You have to jump through hoops. You have to fill out forms. Like, I know people that have spent hours and hours filling out forms to get from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3, whatever, on this 90-10 scheme. And Donegal County Council's come back saying, we need more info. And all the info's there. So why is it not as simple as, right, you wake up in the morning, Sean, you're not feeling well, you go to the doctor says to you, Sean, you have to go to the fucking hospital, there's something wrong with you. You go and you get a scan done, and whatever it is. Next thing, you're in the operating table. I'm not questioning this, but you know what I mean? You're in the operating table, you're sorted, you recover, and that's it.
Yeah.
Why do we have to jump through hoops, pay 5,000 to get engineers?
Well, I'm going to ask you a question on this. You have to get another country to... Why, in all the technology in Ireland, why have they not set up a team of 2-3 engineers on a 2-year contract and sent them about this would save money. £5,000 paid in our country does not benefit anybody in Ireland. You know, and I'm saying that because the economies are separate now. Where EU is Brexit. Sending samples over and paying £5,000 to the UK is not benefiting the economy, and it's not helping fix the house. Why? I don't understand.
Set up a lab in the Republic of Ireland.
2 engineers, send them round. They know what they're looking for. They drill it, they test it, they say, yeah, it's present. There, it's present. And you get a certain level of form that then takes you to into that fund.
And like, I'm not sure if you're aware, there's an engineer here. He's Ambrose McCluskey. He's from Northern Ireland somewhere. I reckon really highly thought of man, knows his stuff. He's been helping Mica Action Group for the last number of years, giving us opinions, giving certain things. And he said from day one that any house that has mica, pyrite, and now pyrrhotite has to be demolished and rebuilt. So when you go into your back to your 90-10 scheme and your new enhanced scheme, you have 5 options. And them options vary, like it's from total demolition, which we should all be getting, right, to removing the outer leaf and underpinning your foundation. So you basically take down your outside shell, take out your foundation metre by metre and pour on new concrete all the way around, right? To taking down your outside leaf, underpinning your foundation, taking down a few walls inside, taking down a few walls upstairs. There's all these different options. And it's very easy to understand this, that when your house has been built, Cassidy's land, well, alright, reverse into your street, throw off the blocks, and the block layer left this one for the outside, this one for the inside leaf. There's no determination of inside leaf and outside leaf when it's been built. So if you have it on your outside, you have it on your inside.
I think you're polishing a turd there by trying to fix. I think that...
Oh, definitely.
You're kicking the can down the road.
So, like, we'll come back to this new enhanced scheme that Dara Breen announced 2021. 2.3 or 2.5 billion euro. That is for... Now, that takes on Donegal, Sligo, Leitrim, Mayo. There's other counties as well involved in it further down. And it's mainly pyrite they have now, right? So similar thing cracking as well. So that's enhanced schemes for all of them. It's not just for Donegal, it's for all these counties. I think Wexford maybe is involved in it now too. But he announced all this money, right? But that's for primary residents. It's like going back to what you said, Owen. If you're lucky enough that you live in Northern Ireland or England or whatever and you have a wee holiday home in Malin you're not covered. That doesn't come. That house does not come on to that scheme. That 2.5 billion euro. This is for your primary resident that you live in only. That's all that's allowed to get on that scheme. If you have a second, say you have a £1 about you and you bought a second house to rent out in the town as well, or whatever retirement fund for later, that isn't covered unless that you are registered with the Renters Tenancy Board or whatever it's called in the Republic of Ireland. So say now you're renting for a bit of cash or whatever you're doing, or you're keeping it as a second home for yourself, or maybe one of your kids was living in it or whatever, and it was just doing your own thing with it, your house, you can do what you want. That's not covered. Schools, like we all know in the last 10 years, I'm sure it's the same up around here. You had a wee school, maybe 2 classrooms or 3 classrooms in the countryside. Now it's got 5 or 6 classrooms. All that's needed. It was expanded over the last maybe 10, 20 years. Not covered. Super value, not covered. You know what I mean? There's hospitals, public halls, everything you name, not covered. And this is costing 2.5 billion. And all them things aren't even on it.
It's a very complex, and we're obviously just giving a small opinion on a small conversation that we've had, but it's a very complex issue. And there's going to be so many arguments to say, look, if you had a holiday home from somebody in another country, let's look after our people first. And that's fair enough. People are going to say, right, there's people here that live here. That's not their primary residence. They're not a threat of being homeless. We are. We need taken care of first. I don't think we can start prioritising or picking in it. But my biggest thing is there's no money released from it so far.
No, nothing. So it's just a big spin.
It's easy to say we'll give you 100%. It's easy to say I'm going to give you £500,000 to rebuild your house.
But see, I want to touch on that too.
Sorry, I'm gonna finish up just before you think. If your house was 300 grand, surely it'd be 30 grand to drop her to the ground and take her away. So it's
And this new scheme, you're still capped. See, that's the problem. This new scheme is 100% of the money. This here telling us, we'll cover we'll fix it 100%. But it's capped. So you say there now, it takes 30 grand, take my house down. Now, I was talking to you outside about this, Sean, earlier. The government isn't including foundations in that, right? So if you get the go-ahead from Donegal County Council to demolish your house, right, on the 90-10 scheme or the new enhanced scheme, right? Owen's laughing.
Oh, I see where this is going.
That is funny. It's not funny. You have to keep your foundations on, right?
And where the concrete come from them?
Aye, same quarry, same thing, same aggregate, same thing. Now, mightn't be showing signs yet because obviously concrete, stronger mix, more cement on it, holding it back. But it's on it. It's coming. There's I talked about him earlier. I'm all over the place here. I talked about Professor Paul Dunlop earlier on. He's a geologist. I think that's what he studies. But him and another crew, he took a group of engineers and geologists and everything, all to do with stone and minerals and things. And he took them over. One of them was a lad called Dr. Andreas Lehman. Took him over from different countries. There was a woman come from America and everything, and had a group together. And they talked about it. They analysed it. They've done tests themselves. They've tested foundations, and there's pyrite on it. Pyrite is worse than mica and worse than pyrite. And it's on it, the test they've done. The government, this new scheme, the enhanced scheme, has been held back to 2024 now until the government, this is what they're saying, they get a body in place to test the foundations. That's what's holding it up. Because they don't know whether the foundations have it or not, even though common sense will tell you it's on there. So, come back to their reasoning for that. If they don't touch your foundations and you get the go-ahead from Donegal County Council to demolish your house to the ground but leave the foundations, the government classes that as a rebuild, right? So, you're rebuilding your house back to 2010 regulations. So, like, I'm grand because my house was built 2006. So, like, if you're unfortunate enough that your house was built 2017, 16, and you triple glaze windows, you had geothermal heating, well, that's not included in this here because you're going back to 2010 regulations, right? So if the government goes ahead and gives you the go-ahead when you demolish your house to take your foundations out and replace them, well, that's classed as a new build. So you have to go to 2023 regulations.
New regulations.
Which is air tightness, more insulation, geothermal heating. It's going to cost more money. That's why they done that, is to stop that. They don't want to give more money. Instead of, you said, fix it now and stop kicking the can down the road. That's simple. But they put so many things on to deter you.
I just don't get. Do you ever hear it's one of the age-old fucking things, don't build your house on shaky foundations.
Aye.
I wouldn't even, like, if somebody says to me, right, you're right, it's full of pyrite, it's full of mica, right, pull it down. Why would you go 95% of the way and build, and you could build a perfectly strong, well-built house.
Oh, the house could be solid.
If the foundations crack up, it becomes subsides, and
everything's built in foundation. That's why it's called the foundation, because you build from it up.
There's so many questions. There's I could keep you here. It just sounds so idiotic that the process, there has to be more reasons we're not aware of. It's not glaring us in the face. Obviously, money's a massive talent issue, but there has to be to some point that there's reason that they're whether it's a burying the head in the sand or this will go away and they've not released money. It's a deteriorating issue. It's obviously getting worse, and there has been no sense of cohesion in dealing with. There's a lot of smart people in the world. I'm only looking at this as actually, I have a degree in engineering, but I'm not much of an engineer. But I'm looking at this just common sense. There's no take a leaf down and thing. It's in.
Exactly.
Rot's rot.
Aye.
Like, if it was rotten timber, you wouldn't say we'll replace one piece of timber. If it's in it, it's in it.
It's like that load of blocks that come. It's on it. It's an inside. It's outside.
We're not even. They're not even skirting round that it's in it. If you put $2.5 billion in a fund, you know it's there.
You've admitted there's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the problem, I would say, just a common sense approach is stop the fucking quarries that's releasing stuff that's going to continue this. Go and get engineers. We've like Ireland is leading tech, leading engineers. this doesn't need to be outsourced. Put together a group of engineers. It doesn't take the 2024. Put it together. Yes, we know that there's money issues all over. People's houses are falling down.
But there's money issues all over. But it was announced there, it was Sinn Féin or someone brought it up in the dial there last 2 weeks ago, that our government in the Republic of Ireland have an underspend of over €1 billion in their housing department that they haven't spent. €1 billion sitting there. Now, that's not just for us in Donegal, for our homes that are affected with defective concrete blocks. That's the homelessness. That goes all around Ireland. There's people living in streets, sleeping in tents. You know what I mean? There's people
There's massive
renting
issue
and
about that
renting.
and then evictions and thing. I know that's going on a lot.
And they've €1 billion sitting on a kitty that they can't spend. Fucking we'll spend it for them.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. That wouldn't happen in England,
No.
See an Englishman, their home's a castle. They'll be out in the street. There'll be riots. The roads will be closed down. It wouldn't.
You see, we campaigned when Paddy O'Connor got on board, and he stopped the concrete lorries going onto his next door neighbour that time or whatever, and the whole thing fired up, and he got the people behind him.
Yeah.
Like, we went to Dublin in June that year with a protest over 20, maybe 30,000 people, and RTE News reported that there was a few thousand there, as they do. We got no help from them at all. They will not back it because, as you say, it's rural Ireland. They don't care. If it was in the city in Dublin, it would be sorted. But like, Paddy never got all them people together, and the people on the show in Donegal and with Mayo, with Sligo, whatever, were coming together at that time, and we went to the streets and we thought, right, this is it, and that's what got this new enhanced scheme over the line, because that wouldn't have ever happened if we didn't. But it got it over the line. We're coming on this June now. Like, what are we now? May next month, June. Will be 2 years since we're in the streets of Dublin. The biggest protest Ireland ever seen, and we're still no further forward. Promises, and all them politicians. The Minister for Agriculture and Marine, lives in our town, grew up a stone throw away from Paddy O'Connor. They're around the same age. There might be a few years between them, and he's on the dial every day. And we thought he was our voice to say, look, Donegal's a problem here, boys. We need to sort it out. See, if you asked him what colour's that cup, he couldn't tell you a straight answer. Day in, day out, everything's we're doing our best. And it's the same story round again. We don't need stories. We need action.
Has your local TDs voiced it in the Dáil for use?
We have a few. Sinn Féin are shouting. I'm not political. Never was. If you had asked me who fucking Sinn Féin and Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil were 4 or 5 years ago, I couldn't tell you one from another. Now I know the bears are who's who. Sinn Féin obviously are opposition. They're screaming for us at any chance they can get, which they're doing it. Does it help? No, it doesn't seem to be helping. Now, again, no way political. Sinn Féin's getting on the next election, and I think that's why the Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael's on the coalition at the minute. They're kicking the can down the road to the next election and let Sinn Féin sort it out, because they know Sinn Féin's getting on. Like, I'm not for no party, for nobody, but I'll vote for Sinn Féin the next time, simply to get them other cunts out, because they're doing nothing, and give them a chance and see if they do anything any better. We have another TD, he's independent, he's Thomas Pringle, he's from Donegal as well. He is one of the very few that we hear in the dial day in, day out. See, there must be a deeper rooted issue that we're just not fully disclosed till. But it to me, it's just the practicalities of it. It all stinks a wee bit. The whole lot. Like, Donegal County Council has a lot to answer for too. Like, up until the quarry closed, and that was, as you said earlier, closed by the public, Donegal County Council was still using Cassidy's. Any works they had to be done, fair enough. And when things go out to tenders, like all them councils will be all the same, they'll give it to tender to everybody. But Cassidy's was doing, if not all of it, the majority of it. Up until, like, I seen a video. It gets worse. I seen a video on Facebook there of Remelton, the main street. They were capping. There's an old wall along the river. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Remelton. You come down onto the town. The river's there in front of you. There's an old wall. The cap was rotten on it, knocked it off. Cassidy's on pouring concrete onto it out of their lorry, and that's 2 years ago or whatever. No. So look, it's going to be years and years of issues here. Mm-hmm. But there's people that don't have, like, I'm not in the worst situation. Like, our house, like, we've cracks. We've some severe cracks. Like, my garage was worse for whatever reason. I had to take the outside leaf down, and there's nothing I could do because it was falling down. 2 years ago, I took it down, put it back up again. my house is at the stage now where I'd say if I got 3 years out of it, I'll have to move. I'll have to do something. Like this summer, I'm planning. We have a conservatory at the side of the house, and there's a gable over the top of it. And I'm going to have to do something with that gable, whether it's take down the outer leaf and put it back up, or try and acrylic it.
Coming through the top of it.
When the rain drives a certain direction, we've water coming on nights. Like I know families that. There's one girl told me herself. See when it rains heavy, they've water in the house. They've buckets all around the floor, gal in the water. They're mopping up steady. But see in the days after that, she's like an old rusty water coming out of the 3 pans in your sockets and the walls. That's a fire hazard. Like, I just don't see why there's no urgency to things like that. Like,
there'll be an urgency when somebody dies.
No, well, people always say that, and I have this opinion, right? It's simple. God forbid somebody dies tomorrow. It'll be awful. It'll be just a natural disaster. It'll be the worst thing we've heard in our community in a long time. See you next week. Not be a word about it. And that's what I honestly think. It's the same with anything that happens. TDs will run round, they'll lick your hole, they'll do everything at the time. But they'll not do nothing. I like people have always said it's going to take somebody to die to this to be sorted. People will die and it'll still not be sorted. Like, you talk a lot about mental health, right? I'm, up until lately, I was very easygoing. You get annoyed about silly things. No, I wouldn't worry about anything. As man, if the house falling down around you, you wouldn't get excited now. But there's nights I sat, lie in bed. I normally, say 4 or 5 years ago, I go to bed, sleeping. The wife would be talking to me. She'd be talking to herself because I'm gone, I'm out. There's nights I lie in bed 2 o'clock in the morning, and the worst thing you can ever do is that fucking phone. Because next thing you end up, you're in Twitter, you're looking at fucking defective this and defective that. Like,
I'd have no doubt that would play with your mental health. There's no, like, you know, I don't know whether is it a man thing, you're home when you're that man's never done out around his house doing things, but it's especially if you built it, there's a level of you and pride, and I haven't built, I bought mine and renovated, Sean renovated his. There's a level.
You just put your own thought onto that renovation too. But like that's the thing, you're putting your
home's your home, and like it's fucking falling down around you. I get it. I will 100% get it.
Nobody was more house proud than my wife, Drowna, and she got that from her mother. Her mother would be the same. Like we always make this joke of her mother that if you're on having cake at the kitchen table and you drop the crumb, she'd be giving out, but secretly thinking, "Oh, I get to clean up." No, that's and my wife would be the same. Everything would be clean, neat, and tidy. And you drive past my house. You'll know now that we have it. Up until lately, you wouldn't, because I filled all the cracks lately, keep the water out, and it's more obvious now that we have it. From the road. But I take a lot of time in the garden. I like gardening. I always keep the garden looking well. Flower beds, everything looks nice. And a man said to me one day, "How can you spend so much time out there doing that, and that house falling down around you?" And I says, "Because if I'm not out here doing this here, I'll fall down with it. I swear to God." Like I've said to you already, I work away all week. You come home on a Friday night, and some nights it could be late. Other times you come on and it's dark, and you've had a hard week, and you drive up that road, you're in the van 4 hours coming up that road, whatever, and passing the rain, and you pull onto that street, and you look at that house, and you think, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
I'd be better down, standing outside the Persian, I don't smoke, but smoking a cigarette and drinking a pint on the dole. I'd be better off sitting in a council house down the town. But that's not what we wanted. No. We wanted our own house, out in the country, raise the family, and be house proud. No, I don't know. It gets to you. It really does.
And hey, we get that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And look, you know, me and Sean didn't really. We had a conversation about it. We didn't massively know, but I think you've given us a very fair point, Paddy, and you've given us your view, and we've just went over the practicalities of it. It just all seems mad, and it seems so wrapped up in bureaucracy that it's so stupid to be true that this is happening. I still, after everything, can't wrap my head around how that was allowed to continue. How that was allowed to continue when billions of pounds were being set aside, when people were investigating this, that the day-to-day cause root issue of this was allowed to continue. Like when disasters happen and people realise things and like, you know, I know this isn't the same, but like when Grenfell happened and it was an absolute tragedy,
And Chrysler was the same.
they realised, and when they realised something was defective, something was wrong, the first thing they run to do, and that all had to change.
Investigation, find out what the root of the problem was, and change it.
But at this stage now, what's your ideal outcome for yourself?
For me, for us now, like if we can get the house fixed, like what people don't realise now, neither do, and I'll touch on this quick, because see, if we get onto a scheme whether it's the 90-10 or this new enhanced scheme, and that looks the same when that comes out, the money that we get will fix our house, right? If we now Donegal County Council is contradicting engineers at the minute, like Ambrose McCluskey is giving opinions, and Donegal County Council's dictating to him that what he's saying is not right. So you go and get your core sample done, get your results back, and your engineer says that house is that bad, it has to be demolished. Donegal County Council now saying, hold on a minute, now I think we can get away with outside leaf and underpin it, it'll be grand. And they have the final say.
But they didn't have an engineer to detect mica or pyrite. How have they an engineer to say that we can't tell if you have it, but we can tell you how to fix it?
They must be going, now I'm not sure of this, but I think they're going by content or what's on that report, like levels of pyrite, levels of pyrite, levels of mica, levels of cement, and that's what they're judging on.
There's no clarity on the process here. You must pay £5,000 to another country to check whether you have it, but we'll tell you how it can be fixed.
And then come back to that, I haven't paid to get that testing done. And the simple reason I haven't, if you look at my house, I have it. And I said to Trowna at the time, I says, why are we going to give somebody 5,000 or 8,000, whatever it is, to tell me we have it? Well, we fucking know we have it. So we haven't actually done our core samples yet. We haven't got our testing done. We're howling out. We're thinking, this new scheme now, if it ever does finally kick off, that fee's gone. They've said already that you don't have to pay it. They'll take on the cost of that in the scheme. And like another thing that they're doing too is, so there's nowhere to go. See, when you have to move out of your home, like there's families now at the minute, there's a number of houses that are being demolished. You can't rent a house in Cairndonagh. You can't rent one in Buncrana. You can't get one on a show. And they're like hen's teeth trying to get a house to rent. So the government said, we'll give you €20,000 for rent. But rent where? We're saying, could we not set up some kind of, like, there's a new housing estate there being developed in the town. Could it not be the 10 of them set aside and do like they did with the pyrite scheme in Leinster, move 10 families in at a time and in and out? Or could Donegal County Council not get a bit of land and put up, say, 10 or 20 modular homes that families can come in and out and in and out? They'll be used turn and turn again. Don't want to know about that. Don't want to know. There's 20,000 there. There's 5,000 for your storage.
Should have $1 billion underspend on housing. The houses could be used for homeless social housing once it's all finished.
Finished, surely. And then, there's 5,000 for storage. But storage, we're not on a city. You can't go to a storage place and rent a locker no, we don't have that facility. So what's 5,000 for storage going to do? And then there's people there just before Christmas that had to get out of their homes, right? They were looking for this 20,000. They might have had a house secured to get into. They didn't have the money. They're at the council. We need this 20,000 to get out of our home now, be in a safe house for Christmas. They were getting no talk. So Paddy O'Connor jumped on once again, and he went to the council office in Cairndonagh to do a protest. When they seen him coming, they closed the doors, shut up the whole council office for 2 days because they didn't want a protest. They didn't want it highlighted that this was what's going on, and give a certain amount of family the 20,000 that they needed to get in. So that's 20,000 for rent, 5,000 for storage, and then hang on a minute. When you finally get on the scheme and you're allocated whatever amount of money to rebuild your house, you've lost 25,000 straight away. That's coming out of your money. So they're not giving you anything, right?
Well, look, as Sean said, I don't. If an engineer is saying to me that it's all there, you need to cut it all out. I'm not 100% sure if even, and like you're negative equity straight away, no matter.
Go there again, right? And I know of a family that have done this, right? So they've gone through the 90-10 scheme, taken down the outside leaf, underpinned the foundations, all certified by their engineer that this is what, and Donegal County Council, this is what is needed. Turned around then to get house insurance. We won't insure you. because you still have defective blocks in your inside leaf.
Sure, what are they worried about? They wouldn't pay out even when you...
Aye, but no, just to even get, like, go back to insurance again. Our house there now, we can insure our house for fire and contents only. That's it. But our premium now is 4 times what it was 3 years ago. Because they've upped the premium, but they're not giving you no level of cover. So what are we paying 4 times the price for?
No, the insurance company, somebody's going to be killed. And they're well aware of that.
And they'll have to pay out at some point. Well,
there's going to be a lentil land on somebody. There's something.
But then they'll be in the fine print too that wasn't covered. That's their way out of it. But
I don't endorse arson, but...
No, but then they'll probably turn around then and say, oh, hang on a minute, your house is defective blocks. You didn't actually tell us that, so you're not covered. They'll find a way out of it, and that's the way insurance companies work. But there's so many things. No, that like it's not just oh, you have it and you have to get it fixed. It affects you everywhere. Like I said one time too, you might not have it in your house, and you might not have it in your house. But hang on a minute, your kids go kick ball, they play rugby, whatever they do. Hang on, that rugby centre's got it. That's going to have to come down. That'll not be there. Now, will there be money to take it down and fix it? No, maybe there might be again. You'll run around the community and gather it up again and fundraise because the government's not going to pay for it. They go to school. Oh, hang on a minute. We have to close that classroom there because that wall's going to come on top of you. It mightn't affect you in your house. You go to super value and super value's not there. It's affecting you. Yep. Know what I mean? But there's so many people that are affected by it. I'm telling you, in Northern Ireland that don't even know they're affected by it yet. That whether it's a holiday home they have, or maybe you decide you want to go to Donegal and you don't have a holiday home, but you're, we'll rent somewhere. You'll not get it. There's nowhere to rent. And would you want to go down onto a holiday home in Donegal and cracks the size of your fist up and down the walls? You'd be looking thinking, Jesus, are we in Beirut or where are we? Mm-hmm. No.
Well, what we're gonna do from this is we're gonna have to send out an email for a response from some of these. County Council. We're going to send them to the local TD and to the Cassidy's and say, look, guys,
what's going on?
This we're alleging this on a podcast, and we want your idea. We want your feedback. I don't think we'll get anything. I genuinely don't, and I think
anything you do get.
I think that at some point there's going to be a review. This is crying out for a paramount investigation. Netflix style, same as Sean Quinn investigate.
Primetime have done it. They've investigated the quarry. They've been up onto Cassidy's and they've done the other quarry as well, and nothing's come of it. No, there is no anything that's done. There's never an outcome from it. Donegal County Council has a hell of a lot to answer for as to why they didn't close the quarry back in 2011. Whenever the Mica Action Group said to them, "How long there's a problem here?" Leo Varadkar was told there's a problem here. Didn't do it. Why did they not do it? Like, that's a question on its own. You can say whatever, corruption, you can say whatever. There's something going on. Who are they covering, or what are they doing? What's the reason it wasn't stopped? Like, thousands of houses, thousands of houses could have been saved if they had done it back in 2011.
It's a ticking time bomb. And I think what we'll find is there might be more of this through the country than we're aware. Mm-hmm. And by opening the gate to Donegal, it's a floodgate for the rest of the country. See,
that's what they're afraid of. I think that's what they're afraid of.
And I think there has to be, whether the house is 25 years old, I think there's going to be at some point there's a floodgate here, and they're about to open it. But look, Paddy, fair play to you for stepping up and speaking out. We got from you that you just wanted your house, your family. You're a normal working man. You didn't want to be in the misposition. You didn't want to have to be the person that's saying something. But there has to be you. There has to be the likes of Paddy David. There has to be people making noise because nothing's happening, and without a collective. And hopefully this can.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I know the more noise is made about it and the more people hear about it, it'll help somewhere or another. Definitely will. Another thing that I wanted to say too, has come into my head a few times there. There is an actual, you talked about Cassidy's and a legal case. There's David Coleman is a well-known barrister. He has taken action against Cassidy's, Donegal County Council, and the National Standards Board of Authority, whatever, of Ireland.
So somebody's going to try and make these accountable.
Now, there's two main people on it. I think they're from Buncrana originally. One's from Cairndon, one's from Buncrana originally. Whatever it is, one of them's putting up the money to fund this case. And what they've done, they've held nights in various in Letterkenny. There's one Mallinhead. I think there's one Buncrana one night. Gone to a hotel and asked the public to come on. And they explained, David Coleman was there himself, and he explained what all was happening, what they were planning to do, who they were doing it to. When I say that, like I mean Donegal County Council, Cassidy's, and the National Standard Board of Authority of Ireland. They're going to take them to court, right? But what they needed was for us, homeowners, to get on board too. So what they were planning to do was, not really sure of the ins and outs of it, but say now they had like, I think it was 4 or 5 lead families, right?
Like a class action.
Class action. They would take it to the High Court in Dublin, get the ball rolling, and then whatever the outcome of that was, they'd say, we have 2,000 more families sitting here. And that's what the fella had put up the money. He capped it, that he said he would cover the legal fees for 2,000 families, right? So as far as I know, people can still get onto that if you want to put your name down for it. We were explained to at the time that what they were looking for, if this new enhanced scheme goes ahead, everybody has to apply for it and get on it, right? So what they were going to be suing for was the shortfall. So say now your house, you got it demolished, rebuilt, and you're out 60,000. And like them's the figures that are being talked at the minute. Anybody that's in the 90-10 scheme or in the new scheme comes out with the cap on it, that you're going to be out, average size of a house and a showing, you're going to be out anything between 60 and 100,000 yourself, along with what the government's giving, right? So they're saying they're suing for that. It's that money that you're out. You're not going to get another 300,000 on top of it. Do you know what I mean? So that's what they were suing for, and they were asking everybody to get on together. So whatever these 4 families got awarded in the High Court, we would have got the same. Worst case scenario, they said that if it went touch up in court and ended up they lost the case, if Cassidy's, Donegal County Council and the National Standard Board of Authority of Ireland wanted to come after each and every family, it would work out, it was something like €750 they could get off us each. And then we were told then that Cassidy's wouldn't be there to do that because they would be gone at that stage. He'd make sure of that. That's what he told us that day. So worst case scenario, €1,500 what it could cost us in the long run if we lost that case. And applications are still, as far as I know, they're still taking people on that if they want to get on it.
This is just a thought that popped in my head before we were saying. If you bought in the boom time, if you built in the boom time, and your house was £300,000 and it's not worth that now, right? Well, how would you sell a house with that anyway? But if you got a full redress, if you still owed £200,000 to the mortgage company and they're only stepping in with 180,000, how can you? The mortgage company won't let you keep it. How can you rebuild the house then?
Exactly.
Because they'll just turn around and say no.
We can't lend to you because you don't like.
You can't mortgage the shortfall.
Aye, but then go there again, right? You're saying that you said a minute ago that I work hard and all I wanted was my family home. Like me and my wife, that I know always kind of this wee plan that when we get on, like I'm just hit 40 now. We get onto our 40s or 50s, whatever. We'll buy another wee property. We love a wee place in Spain. You can nip away to if you could, But we can't do that because we've nothing to put up to get another mortgage. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we go to sell that house, like we built that house, we got the site, we built the house ourselves, we put a lot of our own savings on it to get it going, we got the mortgage to finish it. That house is worth nothing. Site value at the minute if we go to sell it. We can't do anything. We can't go and we could just throw the bank the keys in the morning and say, right, fuck yous, we're out of here, we're away to Australia. That's all we can do. Uproot the whole lot and just go and lose everything. But you try to hold out hoping that this will get sorted and you'll have something at the end of the day. I'm 40. I'm lucky that I can do that. That lady that I talked about earlier on that got the outside of her house rebuilt and now it's cracking again, she told me herself she's never going to see it done. She's at the age in her life now where she hopes it'll be. The family will have to get it sorted for them. She said, I'm never. That woman reckoned that when she was building that second house, she worked 3 jobs, right, to keep things going because she's paying a mortgage in her first house and this new house to get the thing going. She reckoned that when she used to get to Quigley's Point in the morning in the car going to work, she'd have a look, see what uniform she's wearing to decide if she's going left or right. That's how hard she worked. I know of a family in their late 70s in Mallinhead that built a home, good solid house, brought up their family and decided then later in life, not that many years ago, 10 years ago or whatever. Oh, sure, this house is too big for us. We'll give it to whatever child and we'll build a wee house. They can't keep the mice out in the winter time. Cracks that big in their house. They're pensioners. They're never, ever going to see this house fixed. They're going to die in that house. That's what's going to happen to them. Now, there's a thing too, the government brought out. Oh, and if you go now to Donegal and you buy a house, and it turns out, say now tomorrow, right, and it turns out to have defective blocks, you cannot get on any scheme because you bought that house. And it's common knowledge that that's is in Donegal, right? So you might not have known it, but I don't know how familiar you were of this before. You should have probably heard of it. But if you were to buy a house now, would you honestly think, no, fucking wonder is it good mica, is it good pyrite? It wouldn't come into your head. So if you've bought a house...
But you're saying Donegal now. My mindset would be that this might be further afield than you think.
Oh, hey, I'll show you the thing now after. If you go onto Facebook, there's a thing called My Mica Map, right? And what it was at the time, when this whole thing, Paddy Liver thing kicked off 2 years ago, right? A fella, I can't remember who he was, he came up with this idea that everybody that has it, right? Send in your details. Or anybody that's registered with the Mica Action Group, they would do a drop pin outside everybody's house that has it. And this was countrywide. So you'll have ones in Mayo, you'll have ones in Sligo that have pyrite. You'll have ones down, I think it's Wexford, down that direction. If you look at the map Ireland, there's these drop pins. Mayo, Galway, whatever, Sligo, round, right? You get to Donegal, they start to come more and more and more. See, when you get to Annashone, you cannot see Annashone for the drop pins. It's worth going on to have a look at it to see how bad it is.
We'll probably bring it up and put it on. But look, Paddy, I hope to have you back here, and we can see an outcome in this. And it doesn't seem like there's one on the horizon. I hope for you and all the people going through the nightmare that there's some sort of resolve and it's on the horizon. But
everything that they are saying, it's just moving too slow. Like, there's no point in putting a scheme in place if you're not going to make it available for the likes yourselves.
That's right.
Like, everything's just slow.
And then to get on the scheme, it's the paperwork, all that. Like, there's pensioners that, you know yourself, can't use a mobile phone, never mind download this PDF file and that PDF file and send this email. They can't do it. Now, there is a couple of girls there that have come out of the Mica Action Group or worked from the Paddy Liver thing. They've set up their own thing. They've managed to get help there, that there is... I think it's 2 different bodies on a show now that you can go to if you need help filling out forms and all that. They lobbied to get that much sorted. It wasn't something the government gave us, it was that I fight hard for it. And there's a lot of people in the community, like, hey, I kept my head down, kept myself to myself, my friends, as everybody does, and there's a lot of people I know and around, especially Karen Dunna now, that I never would have known before this. And they're all good people. Real hard. People just, like, there's one lad, he's sticking down his house at the minute, and he doesn't call it his house, he calls it his castle. That's what it was to him. And I seen a picture of it the other day, and it's nothing. It's rubble in the ground. No, it's just
very sad.
It's a little nightmare.
But then Yusuf, like, listening to your podcast all along, Yusuf had people on telling different stories and different stories. And I was coming here today thinking, what am I coming here for? Jesus, my story is not like this. It's nothing compared to what some of the people you've had on.
You're living it. I wouldn't say that. And you're still in your house.
I'm still.
There's people, as you said, that are now renting, paying a mortgage. How to take your children out of your home because it's not safe.
Hey, but you end up with the short supply of houses. You're taking your children out of schools too. If you're in Carndunna and you can't get a house, you have to go to Maval, Buncrana. Know what I mean? So that's all that. We haven't moved that much over years, right? And there's a few things that really annoy me about this, and they're really silly things, right? I hate the thought of going into the attic and taking everything out of it. I hate the thought of putting everything into boxes again. I thought I had that done, right? Another thing, and it's a silly thing too, right? The wife's father, she plastered outside of the house for us, right? And there's a wee keystone above the front door, and he wrote 2007 with his finger on it. And times you don't see it all the time, but you walk past it and you think, geez, he done that. Now we're lucky he's still here, but he won't be sometime. And it's them wee silly things. Like, I remember fucking, you know yourself, you hear all the stories of the Waynes growing up and banging their head and doing this and that and all that. You have all these memories in that house that are not going to be there at some point. Whether it's in a new house or you're renting or you're...
No, you're totally right.
100%. And that's the difference in a house and a home. It's your home
and your man's castle.
Yeah,
That's,
and that's what I said. And that's why I don't think the same would happen now. I think they'd be on the street burning it. Boy.
Hey, we tried and then exhausted ourselves. Like, when the whole campaigns and the protests were going, everybody was front and centre, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, it was all bang, bang, bang. Every chance you got, like we're on the radio or wherever, the fucking RTE was giving us a bit of talk that time. You're in the late, there was different ones doing everything. And I was TikToking away and doing as much as I could. And then just one day, couldn't. Just drained. I thought, we're doing
because
all
the
this
problem,
here.
it becomes your identity too.
Aye.
And that is a big problem. When you're involved in that there, it becomes who you are. It takes a lot away from me. It takes a lot of time. It's a very negative issue. If you spend so long and it's always in your mind, there's always reminders. You're at home, you're away, you're still getting reminded of it. If you hold something so negative so close and it's in your mind, you can't not. It'll creep into you, and that is the thing. But look, Paddy, thank you very much. Hey, I don't want to say I've enjoyed to get to know. I've been intrigued and
I enjoyed it.
No, but I don't enjoy hearing of people's things. But I've been intrigued, and I definitely have been intrigued.
But there's like, and I might not deliver it the best way, but there's a lot more people in our area that could give you more facts and more insight on it. But
well, I think you've done a great job, and it's give us a clear understanding. And I hope that we can get some of this out here and get some more exposure on it.
Hopefully, and get some kind of outcome.
Well, good man, Paddy.
Thanks, lads.
Thank
Paddy, wish you all the best now.
Right, thanks.
Cheers now.
Yeah.